Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The FCC has released their 2022 Communications Marketplace Report, and there's actually a lot of good information in there about broadband coverage, broadband connections, so I'll be right back and we'll look at that. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So as I mentioned, we've got this report out. This came out in December of 2022. It's the 2022 Communications Marketplace Report. So I wanted to show some of the statistics from this. I'll zip through some of the stuff in the beginning. It's a very, very long report. As you can see, you can look up the scroll bar up here on the right. Very long. We're not certainly going to go anywhere near through this whole thing. A lot of it is mobile. So I'm not going to go into any of that. You see the video marketplace, the audio marketplace, satellite marketplace. I may look at that a little bit later, but today I'm just going to be going through really kind of the fixed broadband section. So I'm going to look at a little bit of what they talk about in the executive summary and some background, and then I'm going to go into some stats that they show. So see here, the commission's required to publish this every 2 years that assesses generally the state of competition across the broader communications marketplace. And again, that's all kinds of things like voice, video, audio, satellite, mobile service, multi-channel video services, those kinds of things. At the outset, we note that U.S. communications marketplace is in a substantial state of change and re-examination. And they're primarily talking about broadband there, really. They mention here the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact of that, potential for more competitive broadband markets. Talks about the $65 billion from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and the most of that $42.45 coming from BEAD that we're looking forward to sometime, probably being allocated, not allocated, but really determining who's going to get what, supposedly by June 30th, and then funds actually being awarded sometime probably in early 2024. Second is the change in the wireless sector in the 5G era. It's been reshaped in recent years by multi-billion-dollar horizontal and vertical acquisitions. T-Mobile acquired Sprint, and that was really important as far as fixed broadband services and fixed wireless, because they were able to acquire a lot of Sprint spectrum that, as we'll see here, has allowed them to really significantly increase their coverage on 5G and their fixed wireless product. An acquisition of TracFone by Verizon. Dish has entered the wireless sector, so they're involved there, and that I think is primarily mobile, as far as I know. Wireless service providers have spent approximately $108.5 billion in 5G spectrum auctions over the past 2 years and made multi-billion-dollar capital investments to deploy next-generation 5G networks, doing so twice as fast as the previous generation of wireless technology. So that's really taken off. Mobile wireless providers are also increasingly providing fixed and home broadband service. So we've really seen that be a significant change, a significant increase, especially with T-Mobile and Verizon as well. The rapid expansions of low Earth orbit satellite constellations, approximately 98% of all satellite launches in 2021 were deployed into LEO to provide internet connectivity back here on Earth. It's not surprising that's that high a percentage, because ordinarily, you launch a satellite or a couple of satellites in a geosynchronous orbit, and you were covering most of the, a good portion of the globe with just one satellite. Could be the whole globe. Geosynchronous, no, it couldn't be the whole globe. So you have to have a series of those, but not very many. Compared to low Earth orbit satellites, you've got a constellation, and we've already got here. You see, Starlink has a significant head start on the others on that, having launched more than 3,350 of its Starlink satellites, and a good number of those launches were in 2021. The commission also has approved new satellite constellations from Kuiper and Boeing. Kuiper is Amazon's offering, and so that's been approved in Boeing. I was not familiar with that. I'm assuming that's something commercial and not a broadband residential play. Could be wrong though. We'll see. I may look into that. The broadband data collection talks about this. Form 477 and network deployment mentions the new requirements for broadband availability mapping to collect more granular and precise coverage data. So instead of 477, the BDC process is collecting data on every single broadband serviceable location in the United States. And that was all part of the Broadband Data Act. Let's see what else we had in here. It's kind of background stuff. The Commission's also started 2 separate challenge processes to improve the data in the maps, and that's going on right now. Starting in September 2022, bulk challenges were allowed to improve the location data contained in the initial fabric. So the fabric came out, And then people were able to make bulk changes to that starting in September of 2022. And then since the week of December 27th, 2022, providers have been matching their fixed broadband availability data with the new fabric. So providers uploaded their broadband availability data on the first fabric. We got the first FCC draft map, and now they're uploading their data onto the second fabric. It says next, shortly after the first maps were published in November 2022, the Commission began accepting individual challenges to the fabric data and challenges to the broadband availability data reflected in that first map. Given the BDC is still in its early stages with one collection round complete and the challenge processes in their early stages, we do not rely on the BDC data as the primary source of data for this report. We therefore continue to primarily rely on FCC Form 477 data, so that's an important note. It says here in the next report, we expect to rely on the BDC for our analysis of broadband availability. So it'll be interesting to see how the data compares this report to the next one as they switch to that BDC data, again, that very granular data per location as the source for the next report. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here and start looking at some of these figures. So this is deployment in millions and total residential connections in millions of fixed services in the U.S. by technology for any reported speed, and this is December 31st, 2021. So cable is, has been leading for years on this. So you see you've got cable, 109 million households, 110 million households, about 85% of the coverage there. And then you've got residential connections, 71,802.802, and then residential take rate, 64.3%. So you can see their take rate's pretty close to their actual connections. So they've got this many, I guess, homes passed, and this is the connection rate here. And then you see DOCSIS 3.1 is pretty significantly a portion of that. So you've got 78.4% being DOCSIS 3.1. That's the higher speed, not the highest, but the higher speed DOCSIS technology. That's not DOCSIS 4.0 yet. There is some DOCSIS 4.0 probably in here, but it's probably insignificant. There's only a few, like Comcast, that's rolled out any portion of that in any meaningful manner, if they have it all. I know that they've been testing it. I don't know if they've actually got how much they've got in production. Copper, this includes DSL. I don't know what else it would include unless it's dial-up. It's since it's not including cable, that's a copper wire and coax cable. This would be copper. So this is talking about phone lines. So this is going to be really DSL and maybe something else that's similar to DSL or dial-up. So you've got, again, here you see 114 million households, 88%. So this is actually higher than, this would be, I'm assuming these are not cumulative, right? Because you've got the percentages right here. So this is actually higher than cable. So you've got 114 million. You've got, see here though, the residential connections. So this is your deployment, and these are your connections. So your households, deployment, connections. So it could be deployed, and that may be. I didn't notice that earlier. What I think that may be is a lot of people have twisted pair going into their home. So twisted pair is deployed if you had a landline, right? So you can provide DSL over that, but you can see the number of connections, actually people connecting to DSL, is much lower than cable. So you've got 15 million here, and it's about 13.3%. So I'm thinking that's what that means when it's talking about deployment. This is actual coax going to the home. This is twisted. These numbers are twisted pair going to the home, and most people, a lot of these could be landlines, and a lot of them are nothing. It could be the twisted pairs going to the home, and people just don't get the phone service anymore, and they're not getting DSL. Then you got fiber. Again, this is fiber households connected that can get that. 48% actual connections, 24.1 million, and then 38%, almost 39% take rate. And then you've got here satellite services. So you've got 1.3 million households, 100% deployment. Well, what does that mean? Well, I guess that's saying that, if you got a satellite overhead, you got a satellite overhead. Maybe that's what that's saying, is the percentage that are actually deployed. But you can see much lower residential connections here, 1.6 million, 1.7 million. And then the take rate, 1.3% out of those. So I'm not sure what the difference is here, because you've got a connection and then you've got deployment. So this is kind of confusing to me. Maybe I'm misreading these numbers. Then you've got terrestrial fixed wireless. Again, you've got the number of households of 110 million, percentage deployment, 85%. Then again, you've got here residential connections of 2.67 million and 2.4% take rates. That's a percentage. Is that what it was? Yeah, I'm not sure why with the residential connections versus the, oh, that's what I was misreading. I think I got the millions and the percentage here. So anyway, a little confusing. Cable broadband service. So let's talk a little bit about that. So in terms of speed, the weighted mean advertised download speed for cable broadband subscribers participating in the Commission's MBA program. That's a program where they look at what's actually happening with certain internet providers, and they actually measure that. And they're saying it was approximately 178 megabits per second as of October 2020. So that's kind of old data. And participants on average experienced speeds that met or exceeded their advertised download speed. And you do see that with services like cable and fiber. You see that the advertised download speed, people actually generally get better than that, depending on the service provider. And when they're looking at this MBA program, this measured broadband, well, I forget what it is, but when they're looking at this, they're looking at a select number of larger internet service providers. The weighted mean maximum advertised download speed for residential cable broadband connections reported in the December 2021 FCC Form 77 data was approximately 325 megabits per second. So this was from 2020, and it was the actual measured speeds, and we're seeing that what's being reported on 477 as of December 2021 was 325 megabits per second. Some of that could be just a general increase in speeds as internet service providers cable providers have upgraded their plant, more of them doing DOCSIS 3.1, more of them offering higher speeds to people. Some of it could be maybe people overstating speeds. This is 477 data, and they're reporting the maximum speeds in a particular census block, and they only have to report what that is at one household, basically their top speed. So it could be other homes in that census block are not getting those speeds. So that could be the discrepancy there as well. And you got copper, including traditional DSL, and this is going to be, in my opinion, most everything's going to be DSL. Since the last report, residential connections to copper services fell from 1.79 million to 15.2 million, a reduction of almost 15%. That's not surprising, as you've got internet service providers overbuilding their copper plant. You've got telephone companies ripping out the DSL or overbuilding and having both in place, putting in fiber. The speed of the service decreases as the distance between these two endpoints increases. That's an important thing about DSL. So the further away you are from the central office, the slower your speeds are. The weighted mean advertised download speed for residential DSL subscribers participating in the Commission's MBA program was 21 megabits per second. However, participants on average experienced speed that did not meet their advertised download speed. So here, unlike cable, and as we'll see, unlike fiber, people, the DSL is being advertised. It might be advertised at 25 by 3, and they're not getting that. And maybe it's 25 by 3, as I say, speed and distance distance makes a difference as far as speed. So it might be those that are very close to the central office can get that, but maybe the majority that are further out can't. So that's not that surprising, I think. See what else it says here. The weighted mean minimum or maximum advertised download speed for residential DSL connections reported in the 477 data was approximately 30 megabits per second. I think that's a little fudging there, because the 21 was the Commission's MBA program average, and then you're looking at people not getting actually that speed. So this is where we have, I think, some issues with maybe internet service providers putting in a number that they're wanting to hit that 25 by 3 threshold so that can be considered broadband, and they don't have a competitor that can get funded come in and overbuild them. They might want to get funded themselves, right? They might want to get funded themselves, maybe to upgrade the plant there or something like that, but they don't want to have a competitor come in. They don't want the federal government to give a competitor money to do that. So they may be putting in 25 by 3 just to get to that point and maybe get that on the map considered as covered. So that's part of what the challenges are as far as availability and specifically speeds. And this is really where it gets critical, because this is the kind of the cusp of what broadband is. So these are where those speed challenges are going to be important if it looks like somebody is saying that the minimum definition of broadband of 25 by 3 is there and it's not, because those are the areas that we want to be able to apply these federal funds to. Let's see, fiber. Since the last report, residential fiber to the premise connections increased from 16.3 million to 24.2 million, a 49% increase in 2 years. So that's significant, not unexpected. And again, this is just, let's see, since the last report. So this is, I think it might be, what is that? And this is the 20, it might be 2020 report. So 49% in 2 years. The weighted mean advertised download speed for residential fiber connections participating in the MBA program was 447 megabits per second. And participants on average experienced speeds that met or exceeded their advertised download speed. So again, internet service providers will tend to provide a little bit of a buffer there to try to give people, you know, at the very least, what they're advertising on these. And it's easier to do that on these plans where you can have higher speeds more easily. Again, on DSL, you're really struggling to get up to the broadband speed. The weighted mean maximum advertised download speed for residential fiber connections reported in the December 2021 Form 477 data was approximately 518 megabits per second. So that was actually higher there as well. So again, that could be, since this is December 2021, that could be, again, more fiber operators increasing the speeds that they're providing customers as time goes on. Fixed satellite service, since the last report, residential connections declined from 1.8 million to 1.7 million, a 6% decrease in 2 years. The weighted mean maximum advertised download speed for residential subscriber data reported in the December 2021 Form 77 was approximately 28 megabits per second. So this is not taking into account much of Starlink, obviously, because Starlink has actually increased their number of subscribers, or the number of satellite subscribers, significantly. So this is older data here. So you would not be seeing a decrease here, and you would not be seeing speeds of 28 megabits per second. So I think what we're seeing here is traditional geosynchronous satellite service, where, you know, the satellite's 30,000 feet up as opposed to, not feet, miles, 30,000 miles up as opposed to 360 miles, you know, for a low Earth orbit satellite. You know, that's kind of like what you'd be looking at. So those speeds are going to be slower, latency is going to be higher. It's not going to be like you get with the Starlink service. So I'm thinking what we're seeing there is new fiber connections coming in here, new cable connections coming in here, and probably new fixed wireless connections coming in here, depending on the time frame, that is able to provide them better service, obviously, than they could get through the geosynchronous satellite. So I think we're seeing that is what was eating away at that. And if we looked at these, when we look at these numbers next time, I think we're going to see a big uptick in satellite broadband. And it's similar here with terrestrial fixed wireless. Since the last report, residential connections increased from 1.5 to 2.7 million. That's a 76% increase in 2 years. So this is some 5G fixed wireless, later technology fixed wireless. Some of this, I believe, is, again, what was probably eating into these geosynchronous satellite numbers right here, maybe before some of these Starlink numbers are being counted, the new latest Starlink numbers. The weighted mean maximum advertised download speed for residential fixed wireless connections reported in the December 2021 Form 477 data, approximately 63 megabits per second. Moreover, consumers are gaining additional options with the rollout of 5G services, and that rollout's really well underway now with 5G. So in the 63 megs, people are getting higher than that now with a lot of these 5G services. This is looking at U.S. population coverage by technology. This was pretty interesting. So down here we've got, this is all DSL, all fiber, all cable DOCSIS 3.1, and then all fixed wireless. So let's take a look at what we have here. So this green number and this blue number. So the green is all cable, and the blue is all DSL. So you see those are relatively high here. You can see the huge increase in DOCSIS 3.1, this purple line right here, that took place. This is 2016, so a big increase right here, 2018, 2019. So this is where HFC, DOCSIS, cable modem service really increased in speeds as we went from DOCSIS 3.0 to DOCSIS 3.1 as that technology came in. Then we've got this blue line right here. What is that again? So this is all fixed wireless. So you can see that here. And then again, a big uptick here on fixed wireless as we had probably, you know, some 5G services starting to show up here. And then we've got the purple line. Did we look at that one? Yeah, that's DOCSIS, right? So I think that's right. Oh, and the red line. The red line is all, this is all fiber right here. So there's not really flavors of fiber to look at, but we've got our fiber connections. And again, you can see this has not been a huge, not like DOCSIS 3.1. This is just changing out technology, whereas this is deploying new technology right here. I shouldn't say new technology, but yeah, it's new technology, but it's not upgrading what you have already in the ground. This is laying new fiber in the ground. So you can see there's been a steady uptick here. Access, and by the way, this being 2021, this also took a significant jump here in 2022, I think. Access to fiber to the premise in DOCSIS 3.1 is significantly lower in rural areas compared to urban areas, and that's because of the expense of upgrading your. If you've got a cable plant that's DOCSIS 3.0, you've got an expense for upgrading that, and you've got fewer customers to help pay for that. The same with fiber. If you're going to deploy fiber, you've got fewer customers to pay for that deployment. So that's one of the things that we're trying to accomplish with the BEAD funding, is to be able to get these higher speed kinds of services, and it's primarily going to be fiber. Even a cable operator is probably going to be laying fiber, almost certainly going to be laying fiber if they get funds through BEAD. So that is what we're trying to accomplish here in these rural areas, is getting faster internet, specifically, I think, fiber to these areas if it's at all feasible. Approximately 52% of the population living in an urban census block has access to fiber technology, compared to approximately 31% population living in rural census blocks. Compared to other technologies, DOCSIS 3.1 covers the largest number of individuals in the United States as of December 2020. And DOCSIS 3.1 has seen the largest increase in growth over the last 5 years, which we saw there in that other chart. 87% of the population living in urban census blocks have access to this technology, while approximately only 45% of the population living in rural census blocks and 43% of the population on tribal lands have access to that. This is rural, urban, and tribal population coverage for fiber and cable DOCSIS 3.1 technology. So what do we got down here? So we've got urban fiber and urban DOCSIS 3.1. So this is urban fiber right here. That looks very similar to the line we saw before. And the DOCSIS 3.1 looks very similar to what we saw before, because again, those two technologies are primarily in those urban areas and not in rural areas. So that line looks very similar, obviously, or those two lines look very similar to these two lines here, this purple and this blue. Then we've got, what do we have here? So we've got rural fiber and we've got rural DOCSIS 3.1. So you can see what those look like right there. And the rural DOCSIS 3.1 is the green line, green dotted, and the purple dotted. And then we've got, oh, that's tribal. So purple dotted is tribal, and the purple solid line is tribal. So let's see, solid is fiber. Sorry. Solid is fiber, and DOCSIS 3.1 is the dotted line right there. So that shows you that technology in those areas. This is pretty interesting, not surprising, and it would be even more, this would be even more the case if we were looking at 2022 here. So we're looking at 2017 and 2021. Percentage of U.S. population covered by terrestrial fixed wireless by download speed. So in 2017, we didn't have 5G out yet. We had your usual fixed wireless kinds of services. You can see here what we've got is, this one's a little fuzzy, this graph on here, but so this gray area is, what is that? 58%. This is no fixed wireless, terrestrial fixed wireless coverage. Then you've got the blue, this is over, again, that's really fuzzy. I was looking at this earlier. Yeah, this is over 25 megabits per second. Then you've got greater than or equal to 50 to 100, 250 to 500. And the light blue, you can barely see it in this one. Red is 25, is greater than 25, but less than 50. So you can see just the difference here. So again, a lot more fixed wireless coverage, this 58% and now 16% with no fixed wireless coverage. Then you've got your red here, which again is greater than 25, but less than 50. That's expanded quite a bit, 46%. We've got, we have here, that's another one that's changed quite a bit. 7% now is greater than 250, less than 500. Here, you couldn't even see that on this one. Basically zero, it looked like. What else do we have? The purple. Purple is 100 to 100 by, yeah, greater than 100, less than 250. Purple, so it went from 6 to 17. So you can see in all these higher speeds, this has grown quite a bit, and this will be again quite significant if we were to look at a 2022 report with basically the state of it right now. Service providers as of December 2021. This is interesting. There were a lot of people don't realize this. They think, oh, there's not that many internet service providers in the country, but there were 2,201 entities of varying sizes and deployment footprints that reported providing fixed broadband technology services to residential customers at speeds exceeding 200K in at least one direction. Well, 200K is pretty sad, but most of them are obviously well over that. I don't know who would be doing this other than a really bad DSL connection, or that would be it, because dial-up can't reach 200K. That most you could do there, 56K, unless you were bonding two lines together or something, and that wouldn't even be 200. So total number of providers has increased by approximately 10% since December 2018. So there's been more providers. I think we're going to see that change. I think we're going to see some consolidation coming here in the next year or two. The growth in the number of providers, and by the way, one reason for that is fixed wireless, because there are a lot of very small fixed wireless providers that maybe will have a problem staying in business, I hate to say, because and been doing a great job in providing broadband in areas that no one wanted to provide it. But now with federal funds coming in and with fixed wireless access being much more available through the large operators, it may be that those little small operators may not be around because they may be absorbed by somebody that's doing a fiber deployment, or maybe T-Mobile comes in and suddenly they're covering that territory with 5G service. That may make a difference there. The growth in the number of providers is similar in urban and rural areas, approximately 12% and 10% respectively, as far as urban to rural. So they've both been growing about that pace. Here we see the total number of providers of residential fixed services over time. So you can see it's 2018 total 1,996 up to 2,201. And then you can see the rural and the urban numbers there. So, and this was also interesting as far as the top 11 providers, because again, we think the top 11 providers surely must cover most of the country. But that's not the case. It's changed. It's getting closer with T-Mobile, as we'll see. But you see the top 11 providers that cover at least 5% of the U.S. population. While there are over 2,000 providers of residential services, there is considerable variation in provider size and deployment footprint. The overwhelming majority of providers cover less than 1% of the U.S. population, because again, there's 2,000 of them plus. As figure 11A6 shows that in December 2021, only 11 providers covered at least 5% of the U.S. population based on the reported deployment data. This is an increase from 9 providers in December 2019. And I think that 9, you got T-Mobile and Verizon and AT&T are probably, certainly T-Mobile and Verizon are one of the reasons that there's now a higher number there. So, because again, we're talking about fixed broadband services here. So this is the total number of providers by residential fixed services of the United States. So you can see here, it's a little hard to read maybe for you, but so right here is the 5% number. So this is 1.1% to 5%. So you can see you got 21 here, 140, 594. So you got these smaller areas of population here, and you got 452 and 984. So that's where all of these clusters of internet service providers are. And then you've got, again, the 1.1 to 5%. Then you got your 11. So here's 5.1 to 10%. You got 3. Then you got 10.1 to 15%. There's 2. 15.1% to 20%. Covering that amount of the population is 1. Then you've got 30.1% to 35%. So 1 is covering that percentage of population in the U.S. Then you got 35 30.1 to 40%, there's one. And then you got three here at 40.1% to 45%. So there's three operators, three internet service providers that are providing coverage of 40 to 45% of the U.S. population. And you'd immediately think, well, Comcast has got to be one of those, right? Well, you'd be wrong, because Comcast is right here. Because we see right now what's going on with that. So here are your percentages. Provider footprints for residential fixed services in the United States by population coverage. So you've got T-Mobile here at 60.1%. So again, we've seen tremendous growth from T-Mobile. And this is all related to, again, the amount of spectrum that they have and the fact that they have been rolling out 5G services across the country nationwide. So when they started out with 5G, they had some spectrum to be able to do that. Verizon didn't have much spectrum, so Verizon started out with doing millimeter wave, and millimeter wave doesn't go very far. So they had to concentrate on urban areas where you could have lots of small cells, because again, the millimeter wave, it won't go through walls. It's attenuated by even moisture in the air, leaves, and won't go through trees. So whereas T-Mobile has a lot of mid-band spectrum that Verizon didn't have, and they were able to roll out more of a national 5G kind of a service. So you can see here, T-Mobile is top there. Then you've got Verizon, AT&T. Here's Comcast. Like I said, they were the fourth one right here. This is Comcast right here. Then I think this is Charter right here. Let's see. Yeah, Charter. And you got Lumen, I think CenturyLink, TDS, Frontier, Cox. I think TDS is wireless. Cox, Altus, and then Jab Wireless. I think they're called Rise Broadband. I was not really familiar with them, but they are kind of the 11th one at 5.4%, being a wireless operator. So what you're going to see the difference though here in a minute is, while T-Mobile has got this huge coverage and they're ahead of Comcast, well, who has more subscribers or more actual people connected to them? So we'll see that's the difference. And we'll see, for example, Jab Wireless, while they're in here in the top 11 as far as coverage, they really don't have that many customers. They can cover a lot because of being fixed wireless, but their take rate's not going to be as high as these other operators. And we see provider population coverage for residential fixed services in the U.S. So these are those same 11. So again, you see T-Mobile, and this is interesting, looking at 2019 versus 2021 is what we're looking at here. So you can see again, T-Mobile, basically zero in 2019 and now 60%. So that is a significant change to the marketplace right there. Then you've got Verizon. They had some already because they had their Fios fiber service. They weren't just doing fixed wireless. So Verizon, 17%. But with the addition, I think, of mostly fixed wireless, is what you're seeing here, is their jump from 17 to 41, because they've really not been trying to grow their Fios and fiber business right now. They've really been concentrating more recently on their fixed wireless service. Then you got AT&T, 41% to 40%. So they've actually decreased. They've stayed pretty flat. And they've not really been doing much in the 5G area. I think they might be spectrum constrained there. What T-Mobile is doing, T-Mobile is going out in different areas and they're marketing their 5G fixed wireless service pretty heavily, but they are limiting the number of people that can take it, because they know that they've got, they can only get so many people on that service. And they want to make sure their number one priority is mobile service. They want to make sure that as they add fixed wireless customers, that they're not constraining their mobile customers. So, but if an area has the capacity, they're signing them up. Verizon, I think, is doing something different. AT&T has said, I don't think they have as much spectrum. So they're saying we don't really want to focus on that because we know that might impact our mobile business. So they're pretty flat there. You got Comcast stayed flat. You've got Charter stayed flat. Lumen, pretty flat. TDS, pretty flat. Again, wireless operator. Frontier, Cox, none of these guys are making big changes. Altus, they increased a bit. I think that's on the fiber side. They're cable and fiberless, if I remember. They're cable and fiber, if I remember. And then you've got Jab, again, Rise Broadband, I believe, wireless. And you see, even though they are in the top 11, they don't have much of a base here, as well as Altus and those others. So this is the really significant, interesting thing here, is with this fixed wireless growth. Technology composition of provider footprint for residential fixed services in the U.S. This is December 2021. So we're looking at here, you've got Altus. This is alphabetically Altus. They're a mix of cable and fiber. So 40% cable and 60% fiber at this point, December 2021. It's probably changed even further in the last year. Fiber for AT&T, 37%, DSL, 95%, and terrestrial fixed wireless is what that I'm sure is. So it's interesting. This is way more than 100%. So what I'm thinking is going on here is basically them overbuilding themselves and leaving both technologies up. So they'll be in an area with DSL, they'll add fiber, and then they're trying to migrate customers over to that. They're not just, taking this down. So that must be what that is. You got Charter here, you got cable and fiber at 1%. This is going to be significantly increased in the next report because Charter has been winning lots of RDOF awards, and they're putting fiber in. They're not going in with HFC plant in those areas. So I think this is going to be a significant change here. This is Cox cable. It's 95%. That's not Cox. Sorry, that is, who is that? Oh, that's Comcast. Yeah, Comcast, 95%. Cox cable, 98%. They got 8% fiber. This is Frontier, fiber, DSL. These guys have really struggled, but I think these are the guys that went into bankruptcy, came out, and they've been really focusing on fiber. So, but they still have, again, like AT&T, they still got a lot of DSL copper in the ground and have been trying to overbuild those territories with fiber. And you've got Jab Wireless. That's all 100% fixed wireless. This is, who is that? Oh, it's Lumen, CenturyLink, 18% fiber, DSL, 96%. This is another one kind of like Frontier, where they're trying their best to get rid of this DSL and get fiber in the ground. This also will be a significant change in the next report. And you got TDS. This is primarily a wireless company. They do have some DSL and some fiber and some cable, but it's not very significant there. And the fiber side, I think they'd be growing there as they, a lot of their fiber is probably going to be backed up. And a lot of their fixed wireless is going to be backed up by a fiber backhaul stuff. So they're probably going to be putting in more direct fiber to the home as well. This is T-Mobile. So 100% fixed wireless for them. So they don't have any other play, but as we see, they're making a tremendous impact in the fixed broadband world. And then you've got Verizon. So again, they've got a mix. They've got fiber, 28%. They've still got a lot of DSL at 36%, and they've got fixed wireless at 64%. So again, this is where they've been doing a lot of their focus. Verizon recently, they have been worrying so much about their BIOS. So 28% of their fiber is fiber, 36% DSL. What else we got? Fixed residential connections in millions for any reported speed. So this is looking at 2018 through 2021. So as you look at this, you can see in general, there's been an uptick in all of these technologies. You see cable decreased here from 2020 to 2021. Again, I think that's probably some fiber maybe is coming in their area, competitors that have taken a little bit of that, but probably a lot of it's fixed wireless as well. I don't think if somebody's got cable, they're probably not going to be getting a satellite service. So I'm assuming that's what's going on there. Overall, you see the trend. You see fiber obviously significantly increasing, especially in the last year period here, 20 to 2021. You can see copper, including DSL, has been decreasing over that time. Fixed wireless has been increasing. Again, big bump ups. And this is 2021, so this is not taking into account a lot of the deployments that have taken in the last year. Satellite, you can see that this is the weird one where it's going up a little bit, goes down, goes down. Again, this is not taking into account a lot of Starlink customers that have signed up in the last year. Then you've got the total fixed, and you can see that's been trending upward, obviously, with a lot of that being the fiber and the fixed wireless increases. So then we got percentage of residential connections by technology and max advertised download speed. So this is 2018 compared to 2021. So you've got copper here, 73. These are percentage, yeah. So 73% copper, less than 25 meg, 25%, 25 to 100, and you got 2% here, 100 to almost a gig. So obviously DSL does not do well supporting these higher speeds. Then you got satellite. Again, a lot of this is probably geosynchronous satellite. You've got 45% less than 25 meg, 54% 25 to 100, probably not much more over 25, because again, a lot of that's probably older geosynchronous technology. Then you got fixed wireless, 82%, less than 25, 14 over, and 3% 100 to 940, and you've got 1% here at least 940, so that's really a gig there, gig service. Fiber, obviously you're looking at 11 less than 25 megabits per second. I can only think that that would be somebody just not offering a very high speed package. Then you got 25 to 100 at 30%. This is your 100 to almost a gig, 41%, and then 18%, let's call it gig service, at least 940. Then you got cable, 7% less than 25 megabits per second, 17, 25 to 100, 75%, 100 to almost a gig, and 1% at a gig. So cable with the DOCSIS 3.1 technology has been pretty strong there. So this is 2018. Let's look at 2021. So you can see copper, surprisingly, copper has increased the number of, so this is 25% for 25 to 100. And they were able to increase that to 35%. And they were able to get 7% supposedly that are doing 100 to almost a gig. But this is most likely just barely over 100, I would think. Somebody very, some super fast DSL technology and somebody very close to the central office, they're able to get those higher speeds. Satellite, you can see a big uptick here, went from 54% to 71%, getting 25 to 100. This would be the addition of some low Earth orbit satellite services, and you got 7% showing 100 to 940. And this number will grow. This 7 right here will grow as we get more of these low Earth orbit satellites in those constellations. They get more satellites up in the constellations. They'll be able to get up over 100 megabits per second more reliably as long as they keep growing the constellation and adding more satellites. If they add a lot of customers and don't grow the constellation, you actually see the numbers start to decrease. Fixed wireless, we see here the jump to 49% of 25 to 100, 7% at 100 to almost a gig, and then 2% at over a gig. So, or let's say over 940, at least 940. So they're getting close to a gig there, and they could be over a gig. So this could be millimeter wave or very good, maybe fast mid-band spectrum that is somehow able to reach in that area. And we got fiber. Obviously fiber is going to be the winner here on all these technologies. So you've got 45% doing 100 to almost a gig. You've got at least 940 megabits per second at 40. They're not showing anything. Oh yeah, that's your kind of your gig service there. So this is your gig service here. This is your almost gig service here. No, something 100 to almost a gig. So this is fiber. Cable, again, looking good. It doesn't compare to fiber, but it's very good service. So people are still able to get good service to their cable provider. That's as far as I was going to go on this report. I marked that down here for myself. The rest of this report talks about, there's a little bit of more numbers and tables in here. There's you can look at comparisons of some of the states as far as the ratio of 25 megabits download speeds, 100 megabit download speeds, almost a gig megabit download speeds by state. You can look at that. And then it gets into mobile services and video services and those other things. So I wasn't going to go through all of that, but I thought that was pretty interesting, this report. And, it's I don't want to say it's old, but it's old. And that's only because things are changing so quickly. We saw that you can see that just from the comparisons of, say, 2018 to 2021. What we're looking at in the report, things changed significantly in some ways, and just in the last year, things have really changed. So, but it's still interesting to see, and it's going to be interesting to see when the next report comes out, what that's going to look like. Because again, what we're seeing right now is a lot of fiber going in the ground, as we've got money already. There's money at work. We're kind of waiting for the BEAD funds, but I mean, there's money at work through ARPA and through RDOF, where service providers have been given millions of dollars, and states have been given millions of dollars, I should say, to allocate those funds to service providers in their state so that they can improve broadband and pretty much everything that's going in is fiber. So we're going to see big jumps there. Plus, we're going to see big jumps with just fixed wireless coverage as Verizon adds more fixed wireless. Maybe at some point AT&T starts jumping on that bandwagon and adding more 5G service. So, and more people are going to be taking that service. There's going to be some competitive pressures on cable companies on that. Maybe some fiber companies, maybe not. I don't know. But if somebody's not providing good service, if the speed isn't quite there, or they're not happy with the service, or they're not happy with the price, they may take a look at that fixed wireless service. But again, that's constrained. They can only add so many customers before they start to back off on their marketing, because again, their primary market, what's paying the bills right now, are their mobile customers. So they want to be careful of that. All right, well, thanks for joining me. If this was interesting or helpful, if you would, please give me a like on the video. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified when I'm live, and then you'll find out. It'll pop up on your mobile device or on your browser. You can choose to watch or not, but you'll know that I'm there. So thanks a lot, and I will see you next week for Broadband Deployment News. Take care. Bye-bye.